I call it the quarterback's best friend, and my belief, Mark, is that young quarterbacks, their two best friends are the slot and the tight end, and then I'll also lump the running backs into that. Ohio State, while they're not only replacing the most prolific receiver maybe in OSU history and Emeka, they also are replacing their quarterback, and so with a new quarterback, you want him to feel comfortable with the slot. The first scrimmage is this weekend, and one of the things that I'm paying very close attention to is how comfortable is Julian saying with Brandon Inniss, and can Brandon Inniss be the security blanket early? And if he's not, can Max Clare be that? Because I think early on in the season, because there's no chance, Mark, really for this Ohio State team to like dip their toes in. It's pedal to Texas immediately, and so there has to be like that comfort level. So I'm paying close attention to that slot tight end role and what it means for the quarterback if the quarterback is Julian Sand. I also am really curious to see what the offensive line configuration is going to be, just because you are replacing, a majority of it. Now, a lot of people think they have a general idea for it. But I just want to see how it plays out, because if it is Julian Sand, you're dealing with, five guys in front of him that are between 6'5" and 6'7". And I just want to see how he maneuvers those passing lanes, because that is a jump in kind of size lineman he's played with. And additionally, like last year, Julian Sand didn't get a ton of reps in practice because they were set on Devin Brown being the number 2 quarterback all last year. Defensively, I'm most intrigued, I think, by the nickel spot, because I'm a big Bryce West guy. Like I'm a big Bryce West guy, but Lorenzo Styles served as the primary backup last year. What will that look like? So that's kind of my initial early spring thoughts. Of course, curious about the depth in a lot of places, but that's not fun to talk about in the spring. In the spring, you want to talk about the guys who are freak athletes, and can they click it together? And for us, like, to hear about, okay, this guy, the lights on, like this guy gets it, I think is what spring is for.
It's good to have the truth in the chat here, letting us know that Mark and Chris are the 2 favorite sons of Summit County. All right.
Man, we are both Summit County guys. Remember last time on the show, we discovered that we ran around the same streets a little bit,
That's it. That is definitely it. This running back situation, C.J. Donaldson comes in, a nice back from West Virginia, obviously James Peoples. But, man, I just think that group has a lot to live up to replace Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. And I don't think it's reasonable to think that the running back production is going to be quite at that level. I don't know what the numbers are going to say, but I just think they probably have the best tandem in the country. So if they can get anywhere close to that, and it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out. It looks like Peoples is going to be the guy that can separate himself to an extent from a talent standpoint.
Ohio State goes through this because they're so good at recruiting, and obviously like super elite. We've seen it for the past 10 years, Mark. This is what's going to happen. For a while there, we saw this with quarterbacks. For a while there, Ohio State was so spoiled with phenomenal quarterback play. And then you got a year of Kyle McCord, who wasn't awful, but definitely wasn't as elite as some of those other guys. And it felt like you were watching the worst quarterback of all time. They now have to deal with something similar, likely, in the running back room. The duo last year was the most talented running back room in the country, like easily. And the NFL is going to reflect that. People love both these backs, probably second or third round backs at the very, very latest. It's going to be an adjustment watching an every down, probably top 15 NFL running back trot out there every single play from a kid who we're now going to have to watch develop. I like Peoples a lot. I thought Peoples really flashed in moments last year. I was really impressed by his physique when he got here. I know he's got Cleveland ties. I've been impressed by his maturity, really elite family. All that being said, he's not nearly as good as Quinshon or Travion. So early in the year, there's going to be some, missed that hole. Trey wouldn't have got caught there. Q would have fell for 3 extra yards. But I think by the end of the year, everybody in Buckeye Nation will feel really comfortable with the running back that James Peoples becomes. But I'm going to beg everybody to be patient, because it is not realistic at all to compare him to Q or Trey, because physically those two are really, really special and kind of the heartbeat of 2 separate programs. So That's my belief on James Peoples. I'm a big fan. I think Donaldson makes sure that there is a floor there, right? Like, I don't think they needed Donaldson. Obviously, they went after the kid from Texas Tech first. But for Donaldson, it's like you just can guarantee that you'll have at least someone serviceable in that room in case something happens with Peoples.
What I like about Travion, Chris, is that there came a point in his career, and I think I first noticed it against Rutgers. There was a series of games there, but the Rutgers game stands out to me like in 2023, where his first couple of years, obviously he had the huge freshman year, and then he had injuries to deal with the next year. But when it was well blocked, when it looked pretty, he looked pretty and it looked
Yeah.
great. He started to grind after that. He got meaner, he got tougher. I don't know if the injury forced him into the weight room and he kind of reinvented himself slightly and he just became an angrier back after that.
Definitely became an angrier runner. And honestly, I thought he was a little bit too angry the year before he left. Because the year before he left, there was no avoiding tackles. There was no, I'm going to run past you. I'm going to run through you. And then I think kind of this last year, he put it all together. And I thought the footwork got better. I thought the vision got better. And yeah, like he went from running like a freshman to running like a senior. And I think that kind of thing matters. And his body definitely transformed twice, I think, in those last 2 years.
And then with Quinshawn, I don't know if it's just the attitude that he shows after the run or that it's not always just a run. It was sometimes a block
Yeah.
that he would get into. But man, he was always angry, always ran angry. But then sometimes it was, just
It was kicked up a notch. It's like
yeah,
when the teapot blows up a little bit, like
yeah.
the tea kettle starts whistling. But Q's always been like that. Like Q, Mark, I don't know if you know, Q was a 3-star guy from Alabama. Wasn't really recruited by Bama. Ended up at Ole Miss. Shattered every SEC freshman record there. His name was kind of slandered in that final 6 weeks at Ole Miss. So he already ran angry, and then all those things kind of added to the fire. I mean, like, shoot, dude, like every 2 or 3 weeks, Lane Kiffin was coming out saying something about Quinshon Judkins. An Ole Miss fan was saying something about Quinshon Judkins. He, refused to play, wanted more NIL dollars, locker room cancer. So he was doing, got the additional 3, 4, 5, 6 extra chips on his shoulder. But yeah, I love Q and Q. And honestly, I think Q running mean, I think brought the best out of Travion as well.
Folks, we're here every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, bringing on the best guests in college football now that we're clearing through some March Madness. So you'll see Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered here next week, Peter Burns from the SEC Network, and others. Chris Drew's here today, Menace to Sports. I don't want to get away from that Summit County comment. So what does high school football look like in the Akron area and in Northeast Ohio these days? Is it what it's been in the past? What
The quarterbacks over here look a lot different throwing the ball. They're getting a lot better, and they're throwing the ball more like modern football players. We've got a lot of big time athletes. Honestly, like Ohio State is, coaches nationally are all over Akron. Hoban is in Akron. Elbert Hill, he's the number 1 athlete in the country, or he was per most services. He, is taking visits to Alabama, taking visits to, all over the place, Oregon, all that. He's fantastic. Trey McNutt from Cleveland. He obviously is committed to Oregon. Sam Greer, the 4-star offensive lineman that's about 6'8", big kid. Hoban, he also committed to Ohio State. So we've got pretty decent football right now in Northeast Ohio, and obviously like Brad Mandler and the job he's done. He's like the big quarterback coach out here, and he has transformed the way a lot of quarterbacks throw the football. More like the snappy, pretty releases you're seeing, and because of that, more college coaches are coming to Summit County to recruit. I mean, shoot, Drew Aller from Summit County. That's the you started quarterback at Penn State, obviously. We've got guys everywhere. So no, the high school football's been pretty good, man. Bookville East, Hoban, St. V's pretty down right now football wise, but they'll be back at some point. Walsh is decent. So I mean, we've got some pretty good football. We sent a lot of players to the MAC though. Is number 1, of course.
So, Chris, we want to make sure that everybody knows where to find you. So we got the X handle right there. He's Menace to Sports, Monday through Friday at noon Eastern Time. Anything else that you got going that people need to know about?
Man, I'm easy to find. I do a little baseball show too, painting corners with. I saw that one of your mods put it in the chat. I do everything, Mark. I love talking into a microphone. I love, chopping things up. I have a Northeast Ohio show called 71 Rundown, where we just talk about all things Northeast Ohio sports, from the Cavs to the Browns, everything with my boy Tyler. So I don't know, Mark. I'm like you, dude. I'm addicted to being on a microphone and sharing these thoughts before they just go away.
And also, you kick in for us on the Ohio State channel
Heck
with
yeah.
the Buckeye Brigade got going here a couple of weeks ago. So
Yeah,
how
every other
has that
Tuesday I'm
been?
with Garrison and the company.
Nice, love that. As soon as I saw that lineup, didn't take me long to approve that one. I checked that one off.
It's a
It's
good
like,
lineup.
man, that's
We had Posh's daughter play Carmen, Ohio yesterday or
yes.
last time too, dude.
That
So
was a
it's just
highlight on social media. I
yeah.
passed that one around. I was like, wow, that's amazing. That was bringing like tears to people's eyes. Absolutely.